Hey, it's Colin, and you are listening to the Expert Edge podcast. I was a professional speaker for over a decade, and now I focus on helping coaches, speakers, and course creators to speak and sell on virtual and live stages. The Expert Edge podcast is weekly content focused on helping you build your expert business. We cover marketing, storytelling, sales, communication skills, and so much more. Thanks for taking the time to tune in, and make sure you subscribe and follow us on all our social channels so you don't miss a thing. Let's listen to today's episode. All right. Whoop, whoop. Welcome back to the Expert Edge. The time of this recording right now, I am just about to go to Mexico, to Cabo for a week, doing a family vacation. But the time you're listening to it, I've just gotten back from Cabo, so I'm going to project to my future self and say that I'm feeling amazing right now. Just spent a week in Cabo and enjoying the sun, the atmosphere, the ocean, the beaches. Good times ahead. That's my vision for the future. The reason why I share that is because I'm going to unlock in you something really special today. I'm excited for you to listen to this podcast because if you've been running your coaching business for a little while now, your course business, and you feel like you've hit a bit of a plateau, we are going to smash through that plateau today and get you to the next level. We're talking about the topic of expansion. How do you expand your life, expand your business, expand your ability to bring money and income and wealth and expansion and clients into your life? I'm going to share with you some really specific elements that need to be in your life for you to experience expansion. If you don't have these in your life, you're probably plateauing. You're not growing as fast as you could be. And so that's the conversation we're going to have today on the Expert Edge. Let's get into it. Expansion. As a coach, as a course creator, we are on this evolutionary journey of expansion. And, it's been said that if you want to grow personally, start a business, because running a business, being an entrepreneur is like the greatest personal development journey you'll ever go on. Now, here's the problem. Growing personally, growing on a daily basis can be really uncomfortable. Have you noticed that? I know for me, I definitely have many moments in my life where I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have definitely chosen an uncomfortable, difficult pathway in terms of running my life. It's so funny, actually. I reflected on, I think it took me probably 8 years to feel like I wasn't just some unemployed person who didn't have a job, kind of just being lost in life. It took me a long time running my business to really feel like, oh, okay, I'm like legit. Like I actually have a real business. I actually have, clients. I have revenue coming in. I have like a real business structure set up. For me, it took me so many years. I honestly felt like a bit of a fraud for many years. But this is what I knew is through the journey is I really went on a journey of expansion. I would continually grow. I would continually move forward, continually up level. And I had many times where it was very uncomfortable, sometimes where it wasn't that uncomfortable. I was kind of comfortable, right? And I've been reflecting on what are some of the elements involved in expansion. And I've been having a conversation even with some of my elite students, myself from Stage Elite, which is our group coaching program, about this idea of expansion. And I just wanted to share with you just a few ideas that will help you to expand and grow in your entrepreneurial journey. And I think that if you aren't aware of this, what will happen is you'll be plateauing in your business for longer than you need to. So if you've been hitting a plateau, if I look back, I know I had some seasons in my life of where I really plateaued in my business. And if I look at these elements I'm about to share with you, I didn't have those elements in place. When I put these elements, when I consciously have these elements in place, I find that I grow, I make more money, I make more impact and greater levels of relationship, etc. And so I want to share with you a few of these things that will help you to understand, kind of what it's going to take to go to the next level. When I think about it, I've had many experiences of where maybe I would enter a program, I would enter a new experience, and I would meet someone in that group, and they completely blew my mind. I remember that one of the first times I joined a program, and there was a particular lady, and she posted in the Facebook group. She was like, I just made $300,000 in January. It was a program that started in like a January timeframe. And she posted in the group, she's like, I just made $300,000 this month. And I was like, wait, what? You just made $300,000 in 1 month? At the time, I was making about $20,000 a month, right? And this was about, I would say this is about 9 years ago. And I remember seeing that post, and it completely blew my mind. And this was when like it wasn't normal to do that. I feel like on social media, like this was before social media was like massive, right? And so it was growing, but it wasn't as much like, every other coach saying that or every other expert or whoever they are saying they're making millions of dollars a day kind of thing. But I remember it like blew my mind. I had one of those moments of expansion of going, who is this person that I'm reading about, this person that they can make $300,000 in 1 month? And for me, it just triggered something of like, wow, like this is actually possible, and that I'm a part of a group that could actually do something like that, right? It just pushed me to another level. We have people in our coaching programs who are doing millions of dollars a year in their coaching and their course creation business. We have people who are just starting out as well, who are doing, $3,000, $5,000 a month. Which is amazing as well. Like we're all on this journey, but for me, I remember I just had one of those exposure experiences. In fact, I just got off a coaching call. One of our students, she just shared. She was like, "Colin, because I always ask my students as we get on the coaching call, what has been a win or what's been a project that you've been working on?" And she was like, "Oh, I just made $150,000 this month." And we were all celebrating, et cetera. And I was having a conversation with her about, what was involved in that. And it's so interesting because a lot of what I'm about to talk about was involved in that. And she really up-leveled. She's really like up-leveled her thinking and how she's promoting herself on the next level. And it's translated into hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in her business. And that can change your life. And so I really want to share with you what are some of these elements that can really up level you and expand you on the next level. So one of the first elements is that whenever I've gone through a process of expansion, I've really owned the future. So what I mean by that is I've got an incredible focus on a goal or an outcome. And I'm starting to declare that outcome and owning that outcome every single day. I remember for me, I was in a moment where I was in a program, and by the way, I'm always in paid programs. At the moment, I'm in a paid program. I think it's one of the secrets to growing, being in paid programs, being pushed by a mentor. But I remember sitting in a room looking around, and there were a few people in that room who were movers and shakers in the industry. Like they were, like if I said their name, if you've been in the industry any time, you would know who they are. And there were a few people in that room that were really market leaders. And I was looking around and to be quite frank, I was not a market leader at the time. And I remember looking around and thinking, what is it about these people that they have owned something within themselves to show up in a certain way to be a market leader in their industry? And I realized that I really wasn't showing up like that. I remember thinking about it going, what would it take from me? How would I show up? How would I think? How would I feel if I was a market leader? And then I even pushed myself a little bit further and I thought, what would it take of me to not just be a market leader, but to be a leader of the market leaders? Because I knew for me, I wanted to niche down. This was when I was starting to really niche down around speaking. And I was like, I know that even the people in this room who are market leaders, I know I could lead them in the area of their speaking and their communication. I know I could lead them in this area. And so what happened was, I remember I started to write down and really own my future, own this future identity. And I started to write down every single day, I am a leader of market leaders. I remember I just wrote that down every single day, and I started to declare that over myself. I started to believe that about myself. It took a lot because it felt really uncomfortable. It felt really uncomfortable to even think like that. But I'll never forget the day when I got a text message from Amy Porterfield, and she's shared this publicly around her working with me. And I remember she sent me a text message and she was like, Colin, would you be up for working with me on a big presentation I've got coming up? She was launching a new product, a new program. And she was like, this is the first time I'm kind of like really running a live event where I'm going to sell from the stage. And she was like, would you be up for working with me on this? And we had a conversation, and I worked with her on her presentation, and she ended up doing, it was just under $500,000. I think it was like 450,000, she said on her video, on her testimonial for me. But I remember I had one of those like pinch me moments of going, like, Amy was someone who, several years before that, I would just love to meet. Like, I always had respect for her. She's an incredible content creator. She has such high integrity, a massive following. Like, she's like the queen, right? She's like the queen of digital courses. And I was like, I would love to meet her maybe one day at a conference. And then all of a sudden I found myself working with her and helping her build a presentation to sell one of her new programs that she was launching at the time. And it rocked, like it completely rocked, right? And I remember looking back on that moment and going, I don't think that would have happened if I didn't embrace my future self. I don't think that moment would have revealed itself in my life if I hadn't decided that I had the capacity to lead a market leader, right? In my specific skill set, right? And I say that respectfully because Amy's just a rock star. And I'm like, in my specific area, I know I have the ability to lead market leaders. The reason why I share that is that if you're listening to this and you know that there is more within you, there is more leadership capacity within you, and you haven't owned that future, you haven't owned that future identity, I want to challenge you to own that. I want to challenge you to own that future identity and start declaring that to the world. Now, what's crazy is this has led on to now I've coached probably 5 or 6 or 7 of literally the biggest market leaders in the world. I know Jenna Kutcher has shared publicly that I've done some coaching with her. I've coached a guy, Anthony O'Neill, who's one of the biggest influencers in the Black community. Just one of my favorite guys to hang out with. He's an absolute blast. And he just crushes it, right? Millions of followers. And I'm like, I pinch myself that I actually do this. I'm like, I coach the biggest people in the world in my specific niche, like in my skill set. But I share that once again is because I want to encourage you that there's more within you. There is more within you that you can embrace within yourself, capacity, and you can lead your market. If you decide to go after it, you can lead your market. So that's the first thing, is really embracing that future self, embracing that future identity. The second thing is creating high-level connections in your life. For me, I'm very conscious about who I hang out with and who I don't hang out with. I'm extremely aware of how I feel after I have an interaction with someone. And if I leave an interaction with someone and they drain me, they degrade me, they, criticize me, or any sort of just, I leave and I feel like a less version of myself. And that whole phrase of like, if people show you who they are, believe them. I believe them. And I'm like, okay, that at the moment where that person is at, that's kind of how they're functioning. And I just don't have room for that in my life. In fact, one of my most important principles in our business, and this is for running our business and running my client program. So this is for my client programs and also for my business itself, is that we have like zero drama. Nothing's a problem if you bring it up to me and we have a conversation. Like I'm not saying there isn't problems. Like I'm not avoiding problems. Problems are fine. The problem is if it becomes a problem, like if it becomes drama, it becomes gossip, it becomes like incestuous, right? And so I'm like zero drama. I'm zero tolerance for drama. If anyone's got lots of drama in their life, I'm not having them in my life. And so that's another rule that I have. I'm like, if someone's like a real drama queen, I don't have room for that in my life. I've got enough drama just running a business. Like I've got enough uncertainty in my life running a business. I don't need more drama created for drama's sake. And so another key thing about me up leveling, because we're talking about this idea of expansion, is creating high level connections and curating and cultivating those high level connections. So I'm consciously always reaching out to people who are at my level or above my level in terms of the industry, and just encouraging them. I send them encouragements, I send them cool resources, I send them gifts, I want to make sure that I stay in relationship with people who are movers and shakers, who are good, integrate individuals. And it's the reason why I have guest experts that come into our Self from Stage Elite program, which is our group coaching program. I bring in a guest expert, someone in the industry, about every other month or so, and we basically lift the hood on their business. It's like nothing you've ever experienced before. It's not a podcast. It's like a deep dive into like, what is the reality of your business? Like every one of these guest experts are running a multi-million-dollar business. We just had someone last month. Her name's Robin Long. She runs the biggest online Pilates community. She's in like basically every country in the world. She's an absolute beast, but she's the most loveliest human being ever. And so we lifted the hood on her Ferrari and actually looked at the numbers, the reality, the challenges, all that sort of stuff. But the reason I can do that is because I've invested a lot in those relationships. Like I've given a lot, I've encouraged a lot, I've helped a lot. Whenever they need help, I'm helping out, I'm contributing. And so the reason why I'm sharing this is, are you doing that actively? The relationships you're building in this industry are so important. And let me just remind you, this industry, this expert industry, is so small. Like it feels like it's big because you might look out and be, oh my gosh, there's tons of coaches. But let me just tell you, the higher you go in the industry, it is such a small industry. And your reputation that you have in this industry is so important, because I've been in those conversations where they'll say, hey, we've heard a lot of bad things about this program, right? And I'm like, okay, mental note, don't join that program. Like the reality is that this industry is a lot smaller than you realize. And so being really cautious of your reputation, and how do you do that? You serve your clients well, right? You're integrate to your word, you don't gossip, and you encourage people. Like you be an asset to people. And so building those high level connections and cultivating those connections is really, really important. And number 3, the third thing I wanted to share around expanding your life is up-leveling your environment. I know for me, having nice things in my life really takes me to another level. I'll give an example of that. I've got a nice pen. It seems really funny. I've got a really nice pen, right? I like writing with nice pens. I remember one of our coaching business members, his name is Jason, and he was like, Colin, I want to get a CEO chair. He's like, I've got this chair and it's kind of crappy. And he goes, I need a CEO chair. And he went out and bought it was like $1,000, $1,500 chair. And he's like, every time I sit in that chair, I feel like a CEO. I feel valuable. For me, I know it seems very kind of egotistical, but my watch is, I've got an expensive watch. And every time I put this watch on, it reminds me, first of all, it has a sense of meaning to it. I talk about this because I know my internal value. I don't question that at all. But there's something about wearing something nice that just reminds you of like, you're worth this, right? And so my question is, have you had something on your list that's nice? Maybe it's a nice bag. Maybe it's a nice chair. Maybe it's a nice pen. Maybe it's a nice watch. Maybe it's a nice, I don't know, like gown or gown. Do people wear gowns? I don't know. Maybe it's a nice dress. Maybe it's a nice shirt. something on your list, even cologne. Cologne for me, I have certain colognes that when I spray them, it just makes me feel elevated, right? All of these little things. Now, what I'm not saying is I'm not saying go out and spend money that you don't have. Like, I'm not saying put that on credit card if you don't have it. And that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is give yourself permission to get a few things in your life that remind you that you're worth it, remind you that you can live an elevated experience of your life. And so even for me using like my computers, I'm a Mac lover. But every time I use a Mac, every time I use like an iPad or something, it's an elegant experience. The more you can elevate your environment, it just creates a sense of energetic expansion in you that takes you to a new level. And so these 3 ideas have made a massive difference in my life. So I trust this has been valuable. I want you to think about, have you got these three things in your life? Because if you don't, you may not be expanding your life to the level that you actually really could be. And so this is the conversation I wanted to have today about expansion, right? Expand your life, because as an entrepreneur, it's a process of growing and expansion, and it can be fun. It can be enjoyable. And it's more enjoyable if you have some of these elements. So embrace your future self, number 1, right? Focus forward on your future self. Number 2, create high-level connections and cultivate those connections. And number 3, up-level your environment. There's some simple things that you can do to really take your business to the next level. Now, if this has been valuable and you know someone in the coaching industry that you think would really enjoy this podcast, could you hit the share button, maybe send it to them via SMS, and let them know to take a listen, right? I know for me, I always get text messages from friends going, hey, check out this podcast. This is great. If you know someone who you think would enjoy this, send them a text of this. Could you do that right now? Hit text. That would be the biggest blessing for me with the podcast. And obviously make sure that you're following the podcast. And then finally, let me share with you how I help people. Because if you've resonated with me, you've found this helpful, I think it's important to know kind of how I help people on the next level. The first thing is I help you with your story. If you haven't crafted your conversion story yet, gosh, what are you waiting for? Make sure you go and check out conversionstoryformula.com. That's our like gateway course that will help you to build your story that sells your courses without selling your courses, without feeling like selling. Conversion story, great way to start out. That is the first kind of place to get started. Number 2, if you want to create a high converting webinar, high converting presentation, that's my jam. That's what I do, right? And there's actually a free masterclass that I've designed showing you how to do that, like the structure of that. And we reveal 5 secrets for building high converting presentations. And you can check that out for free. You can go to colinboyd.co/workshop, and that will take you to that training. The link will be in the show notes. And finally, if you are an established coach already, so maybe you've been in the industry for a number of years, you've done some courses already, and you're ready to up level, and you know that part of that up leveling is you want to speak, like you want to run like virtual events, live events, you want to speak, you know that's part of your pathway, then we would love to have a conversation with you and see if it's something that we could help you with. And the easiest way to do that is to book in a free Speak and Scale session. In the Speak and Scale session, it's going to be a short session with one of our head coaches. And basically, we'll just help you to work out where you were at, right, with your business. And obviously, you know, I'm assuming you've already been in the industry for a number of years. You know, you're full-time in your business, but you're really ready to scale up. So we'll work out where you're at, what some of the challenges you're facing, get really clear on some of those roadblocks. We'll help you to get clear on a plan ahead, and then also take you through some different options of how we could help if we feel like it's a right fit. If it's not, we can point you in the right direction where we think might be a better fit. So that is a Speak and Scale session. It's completely complimentary. It's completely, there's no obligation to move forward, but it will be really helpful for you to kind of work out where you're at and some direction ahead. And if you want to book that in, we currently have it available. There is limited availability, but you can book something in colinboyd.co/scale. colinboyd.co/scale. You can book that quick call in, and we can help you from there. So they're the 3 areas that we help you in. That's essentially what we do. That's it. That's the whole business. That's what we do. That's what we specialize in. And I love it. Sometimes I pinch myself that I actually get to do this for a living. And I'm like, so I get to help coaches and course creators build high converting stories and high converting webinars and grow their business and change their lives. And I get to earn money from that and get to travel and get to serve people. I'm like, this is like it's kind of ridiculous. So I always am grateful for all the clients who I get to work with. And so if you're ready to embark on that journey, definitely go and check those out as well. Thank you so much for being a listener. Make sure you're following the show. We're going to be bringing you some really cool, new, fresh content next week. Bless you guys. We'll talk to you really soon. Bye for now.